So let's say you've gone out, you've booked a couple of meetings, I hope, or scheduled or in the process of scheduling those things. The next question is, what do we ask and what do we do next? Because a lot of times when I'm working with people, that's always the question is, what do I say? What do I ask? When do I ask it? And then what do I do with the information that I'm given and next steps after that? So that is exactly what we're going to cover today. First being, how do we prepare for the meeting? So we've done a lot of research already to understand, but there are a few steps that we're going to need to take to start building our agenda with our buyers, getting them engaged before they even show up for the call, and increase the likelihood that they will actually show up for that call. Then we're going to dig into the actual call itself. What's the format? What's the flow of this first conversation, which includes our collaborative questions. We're going to be going through phase 1 and phase 2 questions for this first part. And then also, what are the messaging templates that we can use in that conversation to do summaries, to offer insights, and also to start to position the value of our solution? When we're doing these first conversations, when we talked earlier in week 2 and 3 about doing the research on our buyers, you probably noticed in that worksheet that there's another whole section that's called the qualitative high-touch research. This is what your discovery conversations are really all about. It's really looking at, this is what I think I know based on the research that I've gotten. How does that line up with the actual reality of what's going on with this particular buyer? So this high-touch qualitative research is going to be very useful for us, not only in this conversation, but also later on as we start building out and refining our customer profiles, our marketing messaging. All of these are going to help us. Now, some of the things that we're going to be looking for in these next couple of phases of questions, first is identifying how do they become aware of their problem. Is it because someone has told them? Is it because of something that's happening or about to happen? How do they become aware that there's an issue or a challenge that they need to even deal with? And then what's the context of that? How is it playing out in their organizations? What have they tried? What's worked? What hasn't worked? And what's the clarity of this? Do they even understand what the actual problem is? Do other people on their team understand what this problem is? And then the consensus of it. Does everyone agree that this is the problem, that this is the cause of the problem, and that we actually even need to solve it? And then finally, what's the scope of the problem? What else does it impact? These are the kinds of information tidbits that we're going to be able to glean from these discovery conversations. So even if it doesn't turn into an opportunity and a client for you, the learnings that you're going to get from this are going to help you with the further conversations and messaging that you're going to be putting out for your website, for your blogs, for your social media, etc. Now, let's dive into getting ready for the meeting. So you've got a meeting on the books. Maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's in the next couple of days. The very first thing that I want you to do, if you haven't done it already, is to send them an email. Now, I say to try to do this a week prior, but you can do it the day before. You can do it a couple of days before. And yes, I want you to confirm the meeting. Hi, you know what, Greg? So excited to meet with you tomorrow at 3:30 for 30 minutes. And then I want you to collaborate on the agenda with them. What is it that you would like to see us cover in the next conversation? And I'm going to give you some messaging for that in just a moment. In addition to setting out that invitation or email for the invitation on your calendar to start collaborating on an agenda with them, I want you to do some additional fine-tuning of research. So go and look at their LinkedIn profile. Look at their role. How long have they been in the role? Have they risen within the company over a period of years, or did they just start 3 or 4 months ago and they're trying to prove themselves to their new organization? Also, the person themselves, their education, their background. Is this a type of role that they've been doing their entire career, or is this a whole new ballgame for them? These are some contextual research points that will help you to understand how to approach the particular conversation. The other thing that I want you to do in your research, have you heard of disc profiling, where you have the dominant, the I, the S, and the C? Okay, so we'll do a quick brief preview of that. So disc profiling is a matrix or a framework to understand what someone's communication style is. So on one part of it is someone who's a high D. Now, these people are very direct, to the point, and blunt, a little bit like me sometimes, which means that you need to get right to the point with them, not a whole lot of fluffy information. You know, don't go on and on, but have quick, short answers and questions to them that get right to the point. But if you have an I who is someone who is very humanistic, very much about the influence and the impact that this has on people in their organization, then you want to focus your communication style that way. S is, now, people who are I's are also typically, someone who you might see as an ambassador or an evangelist, or someone who's a performer or public speaker or trainer or something like that. To give you some context, I'm a combination of D and I. Now, the opposite of me is the S and the C. So S and C are people who are, so S is for, so C, I remember, is for conciseness. They're very much about what's the facts, what are the details of all of these types of things. And then the S, they're much more concerned with conformity, with following regulations, with getting all of the minutia in place. Think engineers, think coders, think people who are very scientific type of people. Those are usually your S's and your C's. Engineering, IT, coding, those are S's and C's. Your salespeople, your marketing people, and even your leadership are typically going to be D's and I's as a general rule. Some of the ways that you can find out what type of personality profile they are, called crystal nose, that actually will go on someone's social media profile and show you what their DISC profile is and give you suggestions on how to approach or how to talk with them according to your own DISC profile. I use it all the time. But if you don't have a tool like that, one of my cheats for finding out what kind of a profile someone might be is if you go on their LinkedIn profile and then look at the recommendations that they've written for other people. Look at what is it that they emphasize. Do they emphasize teamwork and creativity, or do they emphasize attention to detail and timeliness and conciseness? This will help you get a sense of, how do I need to communicate with this person, or how do I need to adjust my own communication style when I get on the phone with them? So there's some great information there for you to be able to really appeal to where your buyer's at. Research on the company and buyers and their customers. So you've probably already done a little bit of this when you did your initial research on your buyers, but this is specific to this company, this company's buyers and customers. LinkedIn has a great resource when you go to their company profile to look at what's the organizational hierarchy, who do they report to, what are some of the trends and insights that are happening within their organization. For example, when I'm working with organizations or talking with them, I'll go and I'll look at what's the percentage of salespeople that they've hired in the last 6 to 12 months? Who's left? Who's come and gone? What notable new hires might they have? What new mergers or partnerships or acquisitions are they looking at? Because that gives me a sense of what might be going on inside of their sales org. If, for example, they've just hired a whole bunch of salespeople, then they might be looking for ways to train and develop those salespeople. But if they've recently let go of a lot of salespeople and maybe they've had a lot of churn, maybe they're having issues hiring and trying to find the right salespeople. So you get to decide what insights matter to the context of the solution or issue that you help with. Finally, research on their industry. Shouldn't say finally, there's one more after this. And again, looking for what are the trends that are happening? What are the regulations that are coming about? For example, in marketing, next year, there's going to be a whole lot of changes as far as deliverability issues with email goes. And so if email is part of your solution, then that's something that you want to make sure that you're mentioning in these conversations, because a lot of your buyers might not know about this yet or what the impact of this is going to be on them. And then finally, and this is the favorite one of mine, other than researching their buyers, is researching their competition. Where is their competition beating them? What are the customers that they're getting? Where are they ranking on Google and so forth? Understanding in the context of what's going on with them, with their competition, will also give you some insights into some issues that they might be coming up against, or things that you can bring up that they might not have been totally aware of. So, what does it sound like when you're trying to reach out to them to confirm the meeting and the agenda? That email that you're going to send a couple of days or a week prior. It's really pretty simple. First is just, hi, first name. Hi, Greg. I'm really looking forward to our conversation on Thursday at 3 o'clock for the next 30 minutes. In order to get the best use of our time, what comes to mind that you're hoping to discuss or learn in our conversation that I might be able to help with? I've got a couple of questions of my own, but I wanted to start with yours first. Now, what most people do is they send an agenda like, hey, I think we should cover this, this, and this. The problem with that is that it doesn't require the cooperation or collaboration of your buyer. And what matters more, what you want or what they want? It's what they want. So let's make sure that we're starting that off from the very get-go. Now, also, when you're sending this email to them, not only is it confirming it and making it more likely that they're going to show up, but when they reply back, that gives you additional context in how to start off your meeting. What is it about that particular thing that's so important to you right now? So you can almost skip a couple of the questions that you might have to do in discovery if you can get those answers right away. It also allows you the opportunity to ask, is there anyone else that should be involved in this conversation that's impacted by this or has a perspective on it? So that you can get as many people involved as it needs to be involved as possible. It's a simple thing to do, but even professional sellers don't do this. So make this a regular part of your cadence. If there's a way to set it up automatically when someone books on your calendar, do that.